Hello guys, and welcome to a slightly different type of video. This one's gonna be ranty, rambly. In the first half of the video, I kind of want to address a little something that is connected to this video of mine that you have probably seen. Now, these are, as always, just my thoughts. I'm not here trying to gatekeep or dictate the use of language. That's not my objective. No single person can do that. I'm just here sharing what I learned in theory and what we have seen in practice happen historically or not happen. Let me start with something that has been brought to my attention in the comments before. Prescriptive versus descriptive linguistics. So, descriptive grammar focuses on language and how it is used in practice. It describes the use of language in practice. Whereas prescriptive grammar prescribes. It tells you how language should be used, at least in theory. Now, the reason why I'm pointing this out is because a lot of people interpreted this video as prescriptivist. You know, oh, here is this non-native English speaker trying to dictate to native English speakers how they should use their own language.
How dare you?
Do people use non-standard varieties of language in real life? Yes. Is language in practice used differently than it should be in theory? Yes. Does that mean that people who attempt to teach others how to use grammar but can't use correct grammar themselves therefore not be corrected? Does it mean that people who write things like this, with this kind of spelling, does it mean that they shouldn't be corrected? Because anything goes, everything goes, you know, grammar is just prescriptivist nonsense nowadays, apparently. I personally think that descriptive and prescriptive linguistics are complementary. But at the end of the day, without rules, there is no describing how and why certain rules are not always followed in practice. The videos that I reacted to were not cases of non-standard English or some regional variants. The three examples there were just pure fabrications by the people in the videos. You can't invent something and claim, oh, this is just a non-standard variety. Okay, who uses it? Oh, just me. Okay, yeah, grammar and rules are not followed, there is no rhyme and reason to this word and its forms, but it's how it's used because I say so today and I might change my mind tomorrow, but today I want it used this way. You see what I mean? But I digress. Let's just finally get into the main topic of today. Here is why I think that neopronouns for every gender of the year will not stick. Firstly, pronouns are a closed word class. And what that means is they are generally finite in number. Pronouns, determiners, modal verbs, these are all closed word classes. For words from closed word classes, you know, you may have some smaller changes from time to time. Maybe certain spellings will change across a longer period of time. But usually, new members, new words, are not added that easily. So an expansion to the pronouns list would have to have one heck of a reason for existence. And unfortunately, what is not a good reason is a small minority of people trying to artificially enforce something that has no basis in the observable reality, that is solely based on the internal world of those people inventing these words, but they still somehow want the external world to perceive those internal thoughts and feelings that they have. That is not a good reason from a linguistic perspective. In one of my previous videos, I talked about the historical gender-neutral pronoun thon, even though it's not actually gender-neutral, but it's, well, you can check out the video here if you want to. But thon was essentially an attempt at introducing a new pronoun that would, in certain cases, replace he or she as a unit. And what they did in the 19th century, they actually introduced this pronoun, they put it in textbooks, even in the dictionary, because some people were really into it and just wanted to push it forward. So it gained quite a lot of notoriety, but at the same time, it had a fairly short-lived existence. It eventually gradually just faded into obscurity. And you could actually make an argument that thon had a pretty good reason for existing. It had a clear function, it was clear when it was supposed to be used, it was clear what it was replacing, and yet with all of this being in its favor, it still didn't stick around. Now think of zim, zer, lemon self, fisher them. How are these easing communication? How are they aiding communication? If you can't even infer them, if you have to ask for them in advance. They have no clear function or use if anyone or anything could be the referent at any given moment. Then there's something else. Even if you could make some neopronoun related newspeak stick around in the English language, it would be impossible to spread this effectively to the rest of the world's languages. First of all, because of how many languages that are not English work internally, right? How their grammar and syntax and everything else works. Not to mention that this isn't just a linguistic question, but very much an ideological question. In this case, it's the ideology that would have to motivate this linguistic change. And getting everyone to be on board with an ideology on a national, let alone global level, well, that's a whole different challenge, isn't it? Several of my subscribers pointed out their disapproval of the word latinx or latinx or whatever, and everything related to it. By the way, apparently the plural is supposed to be spelled like this: latinxes, Latin extra small. Yeah. And one of the spelling options is apparently also this. You know, I feel like the people who came up with this would be the first ones to whine, oh, who put letters in math? It's not fair, this isn't even math anymore. Is this language? Is German gonna get cancelled next because they gender their nouns? Der Tisch. How dare they assume that that table is masculine? Is my native language going to get cancelled? Because in Slovenian, we also have gendered nouns. We don't add suffixes to them, but the noun's gender is encoded in the verb that follows it. Miza je težka, stol je težek. The table is heavy, she. The chair is heavy, he. But wait, so German tables are masculine, but Slovenian tables are feminine. Well, how can that be? Who's right there? Are tables gender non-conforming, gender fluid? Well, let me tell you, it's 2-1 Germany because French tables are also feminine. La table.
Bonjour, madame. This will be of the female persuasion. La table.
If you have gendered nouns in your native language, please let us know down below what gender the table in your language is. I want to see who wins. The feminine table or the masculine table or even the neutral table. On a serious note though, how would non-binary newspeak work in German? Well, believe it or not, on this wiki page, there are a few examples of how to use gender-neutral language in German. I seriously doubt that these are actually used in practice because you'll soon see why, but the theory is there nonetheless. To say my best friend, you could pronounce it like this and write it like this. Meinix bestix freundix. Yeah, that just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Or they tell us that you could also use a random punctuation in the middle of the words. Something like this. And yes, they say random places. Punctuation and asterisks can be used in random places in the middle of the words. Rules, logic, consistency, now. They left the chat a long time ago. You know that language is in trouble when conlangs, constructed fictional languages like Quenya and Sindarin, make more sense than an actual real language. Then we have doctorx, professorx, They love those X's, don't they? No language is immune from random X's in the end or in the middle of the word. Latinx, Dr. X. And I will leave you with this final one because when I saw it, I stopped scrolling, I paused, and I closed my laptop and I said, I'm done for today. And that's how I finished this script. So I present to you Tankel. Tante und Onkel. Tankel. You're welcome. Guys, thank you so much for watching, for sticking around till the end, for suffering with me through some of these. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget about the table. The table it's a very important question. What gender is the table? Very important. So yeah, this is all for today's video. Take care, and I will see you soon.